The first rains came in October, and when they did, the water had nowhere to go. The HOA president had ordered the historic Willow Creek, a 150-year-old natural drainage, to be filled with concrete to prevent flooding. But the man she targeted, Elias Grant, knew better. He'd warned them. "You're not stopping floods. You're creating one." They fined him, silenced him, called him a nature fanatic. Then the skies opened, and within 48 hours, luxury homes worth millions were knee-deep in mud and standing water. But Elias's land? Bone dry, because while they buried the creek, he preserved the old watershed, and the deed proving it was never theirs to destroy. This is what happens when nature fights back, and one quiet man stands in its defense. Elias Grant wasn't trying to be a hero. He was just a man who respected the land. A retired environmental hydrologist in his early 60s, he'd moved to the Willow Creek Valley after his wife passed, seeking peace, quiet, and a place where nature still spoke. His home wasn't large, a modest cedar cabin on a 2-acre plot, but it sat beside a living treasure. Willow Creek, a natural waterway that had guided rainfall through the valley for over 150 years. He didn't pave. He didn't drain. He planted native grasses, monitored water flow, and kept the banks healthy. He even restored a small wetland that birds and frogs had returned to. The HOA collected $340 a month for community upkeep. Elias paid on time, no complaints, no violations. But Diane Ralston, the HOA president, didn't like his wild look. She wore blazers on weekends, carried a clipboard like a sword, and believed nature should be tamed. At the spring meeting, she announced a plan. To prevent flooding, we will fill the lower section of Willow Creek with concrete and install a drainage pipe. Elias raised his hand. That creek is a natural basin. It absorbs and redirects water. Covering it will force runoff into the neighborhood. Diane smirked. We consulted a contractor. He says it's safe. A contractor, Elias said. Not a hydrologist? She ignored him. The vote passed 6-1. Elias was the only no. That night, he pulled out a yellowed map from 1902, the original land survey, signed by the valley's first engineer. It showed the natural watershed, and a note, no permanent obstruction permitted on drainage corridor. Elias wasn't just a neighbor. He was the last steward of a 150-year-old ecosystem, and he wasn't going to let them kill it without a fight. The vote was final. The order was given. And within a week, construction crews arrived. Trucks, bulldozers, cement mixers, ready to pour concrete into the creek bed. Elias stood at the edge, arms crossed, watching. Diane arrived in a white SUV. Clipboard in hand, step aside, she said. This is a community improvement. This is ecological vandalism, Elias replied. She smiled. You're fined $750 for obstructing progress. He didn't move. Neighbors gathered, some curious, some angry. One said, My basement flooded last year. This will fix it, Elias turned to them. You're not fixing floods. You're redirecting them. That water has to go somewhere. And when it rains hard, it'll go uphill, into your homes. Diane laughed. Hydrology class much? The crew began digging. Elias filmed everything, the machinery, the orders, the disregard for the land. He sent the footage to the State Environmental Board. No response. Then, one night, someone spray-painted his gate. Creek Killer. It wasn't him. It was a message from the HOA's silent supporters. He cleaned it. But the damage was already starting. As the creek was buried under layers of concrete, the birds stopped singing. The frogs vanished. The soil dried up, and Elias felt it. The land was wounded. He called the county water department. They reviewed his 1902 map. The creek has a protected watershed, easement, one official said. But enforcement is local. Elias knew what that meant. No one would stop. Diane. So he did the only thing left. He documented photos, videos, letters, and he waited, because he knew one thing the HOA didn't. Rain always wins. The fines piled up: $750 for obstruction, $200 for unapproved native plant growth, $300 for failure to comply with aesthetic standards, all signed by Diane. Then came the drone. It hovered over his property every afternoon, not for safety, but to shame him. Footage was posted in the HOA group. Look at the jungle Elias is growing. Is this a home or a swamp? Elias didn't rage. He installed his own cameras, solar-powered, high-res, cloud-backed. He filmed the drone. He filmed Diane directing the crew to extend the concrete fill onto his land, past the boundary line. He filmed her saying, "Just bury it." He can't prove it's his. He also found something darker, a contractor's invoice. Willow Creek Project, Phase 1. But the project wasn't approved by the county. No environmental impact report, no permits, just Diane's word. Elias filed a formal complaint. The county responded, "Under review." 2 weeks later, a bulldozer arrived at dawn. It began pushing soil into the upper creek on Elias's side. He stood in front of it. "You're trespassing. The operator didn't..." "Stop." Elias pulled out his phone, live-streamed the entire thing. By noon, it had 40,000 views. Not local news picked it up. Then the rains started. Soft at first, then heavier. And Elias watched the sky, not with fear, but with certainty. The concrete was sealed, the ground was hard, and the water, it had nowhere to go. The storm hit on a Thursday night, 4 inches in 6 hours, and when it did, the earth rejected the concrete. Water pooled on the sealed creek, unable to absorb. It flowed backward, uphill, into the yards of the most expensive homes in the community. By dawn, 6 houses were flooded, basements filled, furniture ruined, HVAC systems destroyed. One resident waded out in rubber boots, screaming, "The HOA said this would stop floods." Elias stood on his porch, dry, his land untouched. The natural channels he'd preserved redirected the water safely into the valley. No damage, no standing water, just peace. Diane arrived in a panic. "You did this!" she shouted. "I didn't," Elias said. "You did. You buried the creek. Nature found a new path." She tried to rally the board, but the homeowners were furious. They pulled out their insurance claims, deductibles $10,000+, repairs estimated at $200,000 per home, and all because of a concrete-filled creek that never should have been touched. Elias uploaded his 1902 map, the hydrology report, and the live-streamed bulldozer footage. Title: "I warned them. Now their homes are underwater." It went viral. Then the state environmental agency called. They launched an investigation. Violation of watershed protection laws, unauthorized construction, fines up to $10,000 per day. Diane claimed she didn't know, but the documents proved otherwise. The HOA was ordered to stop all work and to begin the most expensive lesson in history: you don't fight nature, you respect it. The state investigator arrived with a sealed envelope. Inside, confirmation of the 1902 watershed easement deed, filed under Elias Grant's great-grandfather's name. It granted him legal authority over the natural flow of water through the valley, and it stated, "No obstruction, diversion, or alteration permitted without easement holder's consent." Elias had never claimed power, but now he had the right to demand justice. He filed a formal injunction: remove the concrete, restore the creek, compensate affected homeowners. The HOA fought back, hired a lawyer, claimed the deed was archaic, but the court ruled the easement was legally binding, and because the HOA had violated it and caused millions in damage, they were liable. Worse, Diane was personally named in the suit. The county found she'd approved the project without permits, forged a contractor's signature, and lied about environmental approval. Photos surfaced. Her at a luxury resort in Costa Rica, paid for with flood prevention funds. Elias didn't gloat. He stood before the board and said, "You wanted control, but nature doesn't obey rules made by people who don't understand it. And now you'll pay. not just with money, but with trust. Homeowners who once mocked him now left notes. "Thank you for trying to protect us." We didn't listen. Even the sheriff said, "You didn't just save your land, you saved them from themselves." But Elias wasn't done. The emergency town meeting was packed. Residents filled the lodge, some angry, some ashamed. Diane stood at the front, trying to defend the project. "It was meant to help," she said. Elias stood up. No shouting. No anger, just truth. He projected the 1902 map, then the hydrology report, then drone footage of the flooded homes, water spilling from broken windows, families carrying ruined photos, then audio, Diane saying, "Just bury it." "He can't prove it's his." Gasps filled the room, then silence, then shouts, "You lied! You ruined our homes." Diane tried to speak. No one listened. Elias continued, "I didn't want this. I warned you. I begged you, but you chose concrete over nature. And now the land has spoken." He held up the easement deed, and under the law, "I have the right to demand the creek be restored." The room erupted. A vote was called. Should the concrete be removed and the creek restored? Result, 94% in favor. Diane was stripped of her title, fined $15,000, banned from future HOA rolls. As she left, a woman said, "You didn't just destroy a creek. You destroyed trust." Elias didn't watch her go. He looked out the window. The rain had stopped, and somewhere, deep underground, the earth remembered how to breathe. 6 months later, the concrete was removed. The creek was restored, stone by stone, plant by plant. Biologists reintroduced native species. Birds returned. Frogs sang. A new sign was erected at the entrance, Willow Creek, restored by nature, protected by law. The HOA was renamed Willow Valley Stewards. No more president, just a rotating council, elected annually. Elias wasn't on it. He didn't want power. He wanted balance. He reopened his small nursery, selling native plants, teaching kids about watersheds. One spring, a young couple asked if they could restore a section of the creek on their land. Elias helped them. Diane moved away. But before she left, she sent a letter. "I was wrong. I thought control was leadership. It's not. Respect is." Elias didn't reply. But he planted a willow sapling by the creek, in her name, a symbol of growth, of forgiveness, of renewal. When asked if he felt victorious, he said, "I didn't win. The land did." And every year on the anniversary of the flood, the community gathers. Not to protest, not to blame, to remember, to heal, and to honor the man who listened when no one else would.